And David, it sort of brings to mind the other personnel changes that we're seeing today. Monica Lozano is going to join the board of Apple. And Gary Cohn, a moment ago, tweeting that he's going to join IBM as vice chair. Jim?
Yeah, well, this is, I know, shocking to people for Gary Cohn. Gary Cohn has a SPAC that he's working on. And I know he's not moving away from that $830 million SPAC, which he's Cohn Robbins, which I know that David knows Cliff Robbins very well. But I think that this is a really interesting move. Why? Because IBM is becoming a different culture, but they need help in changing that culture because they're spinning off this dramatic spin-off of the managed service business, which is much slower, going to hybrid cloud, AI, much more the route of Red Hat. And Arvind Krishna asked him to come on. Why? To tell the story better and to shake up the culture. David, you know that Gary Cohn shook up culture on the trading desk at Goldman, obviously went to the White House, tried to shake up the culture there. But I think this is a sign that maybe IBM wants to be brought up in the times and be part of a consideration that maybe it should be, which is about the cloud, which we think about as an Alphabet, which Google. We think about Amazon Web Services. We think about Azure. IBM wants to be thought about. They're in the room, and they want to be thought about. Don't forget, IBM, David, has a huge banking business, which wants to be on-prem always because they think it's safer. Look, I think it's an exciting move. Exciting move for IBM because Gary can be a change agent. Exciting move for Gary because while he's got his SPAC, you know what? Vice chairman, not on the board, David, not on the board, but vice chairman can be Arvind Krishna's, let's say, sounding board for a company that needs a sounding board to be able to tell the story of its reinvention and beat the bears, whether it be Lisa Ellis at MoffettNathanson or, of course, Chanos, who has really said that this is just a pile of financial engineering. Let's see what Cohn does, but I think the stock might react positively.
All right, but meanwhile, he is going to stay. I mean, Cohn Robbins, he's the first name on the door there. He's going to stay with the SPAC. They raised $720 million. Now, a lot of that, I have to say, is not on Gary. It's really, you know, people believe in Cliff, given his returns over the years in running his fund. But he's going to stay with that. How do you do that? How do you? Absolutely. How are you vice chairman of a public company, but you're all, well, I mean, there are others doing it, I guess, but he's going to stick with the SPAC as well. That's what he said in that tweet, right? Yeah.
Primary interest in the SPAC. Secondary as a sounding board for Arvind Krishna, again, who brought him in. Got it. Does he have a lot of bandwidth? I've always thought he's had a lot of bandwidth. I think that it's interesting, David. As we go over the culture of IBM, a lot of us think, well, a lot of the critics think it's really 1970s, 80s corporate. Gary can shake that up. Now, Carl, the one thing that I think people are going to say is if you want to shake it up, why are you bringing in a financial guy? Shouldn't you bring in someone who's from outside that world? I would tell you they've got him. They've got Jim Whitehurst, who they brought in with Red Hat. That was an Arvind Krishna deal. But you know what? People don't think much of this spinoff. It's a $19 billion spinoff that is going to raise the profile of the faster part. The dividend is going to stay the same between them. But, Carl, I think that it's going to be puzzling to people why Cohn, doing the SPAC, is now vice chair. The answer is I don't think vice chair is going to be a huge time commitment, but I do think that Gary can be used to say, for Krishna to be able to say, I want to do this, Gary. Will it change things? They need someone outside. Sure, definitely a curious act unless you know Gary and you know Arvind. I think it's a nice marriage for both of them.
Yeah, well, that's something, obviously, tech has had to balance, Jim, that mix of finance knowledge and engineering knowledge. And we've seen some companies, at least from the street's perspective and opinion, that have maybe had a bit of an imbalance, and it's cost them.
Yeah, look, is IBM liked? I mean, one look at the chart says no. Does IBM deserve more respect? Well, when they did the spinoff, which they said is 18 months, and that's that spinoff of the managed services, it was not correctly articulated, I believe. It was articulated on Mad Money. And I think Arvind Krishna is definitely right in the direction. But the articulation to the street, and you could say that Chanos is right, financial engineering, wasn't, I think, as clean as it could have been. Is Gary going to be dressing up a pig? Absolutely not. I think it's the opposite. I think IBM is a gem, iconic company, but that's not coming across. Is that Arvind Krishna's fault? Arvind is a hands-on operator. Gary can help him articulate the story, and at the same time, look, he's vice chair. He can kind of say what he wants. kind of say, listen, you got to get rid of this. You got to do that. Match made in heaven. Well, I don't know. How about this? How about the stock needs something? David, the stock needs something.
Yeah, it does. Is it a full-time job? It's not even a full-time job, is it?
No.
Okay.
Oh, no. Not at all.
It's just sort of to come in.
As a matter of fact, I would point out.
Hang out.
Well,
I don't know.
Hang out.
What? Hang out, walk around.
Go to the Masters?
Well,
yeah.
nobody goes to the office anymore
Masters.
anyway. So I guess Zoom with people and just. All right. I mean, he's obviously he tried. Listen, Wells Fargo didn't happen for him. I mean, he's not the CEO. His hope of being obviously Goldman didn't happen for him as CEO. So that's over and done with. So he's got this part-time, and then he's got the SPAC.
That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
We want to see, will he be on the conference calls? I don't think so. Will he help articulate the story? Yes. Is the story better than the stock? Absolutely. But, David, I think that a lot of people are going to look at it the way you did, which is hang out at the Masters, use those great tickets. And I think that is demeaning to him and demeaning to IBM. Albeit the spin that a lot of people may have, David.
I love the vice chairman jobs. Those are great jobs, Carl. That's what I'm hoping for a few years from now. Vice chair. You want to be
vice chairman of what?
So it's just
what
whatever. I mean, vice chairman. Hey, vice chairman, how are you?
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.